In this video, we'll assign some materials to our objects. We'll start with the tree first. I'm going to change my viewport layout to see both hypershade and the perspective view. So I'll click on this button. So you can see that we have the hypershade on the left side and then we have the perspective view at the right side. I'll just push it slightly more so that we can have more space for our hypershade. And I'm going to create a couple of materials. I'll go to Maya here, and as you can see, we have a lot of default materials in Maya. Now, Blinn and Lambert, these are the basic two materials that will be applied most of the time. Blinn can be used for a surface which is reflective, and Lambert can be used for a surface which is non-reflective. So in our case, almost all the materials that you're going to use is going to be non-reflective, so we will use Lambert itself. I'll click on it so you can see that we have created a new Lambert now. I'll go ahead and squeeze this area so that we will have more space for our node editor. I'll select this Lambert, double click on it so that it opens up the attribute editor. I'll give a name to this. I'm going to call this leaf. We'll change the color to green. Click on the color, choose green. I think it's a bit too bright. Okay. Let's go ahead and apply that to our tree. I'm going to middle mouse click on this Lambert and directly drag it and drop it on the tree. Great. Now let's create one more Lambert. This one we'll call it as tree trunk. Okay, and we'll give a brown color to this. I'll pick up some orangish color here and I'll move it towards brown. Try to keep it more darker brown. I'll apply that. There you go. Nice. And then we'll create two kinds of mountains. So one is going to be more greener mountain, which is close by this one, and then we'll create some brownish mountain for the background. So I'm going to again create one more Lambert. This is going to be called green mountain. I'm going to click on this. This will be too dark, not like the previous one. We'll make it more darker, green. Okay. Let's go ahead and apply that. Yeah, I don't need this preview, so I can see my viewport bigger. Okay, fine. Now let's go ahead and create a brown mountain. So I'll create one more Lambert, call it brown mountain. Okay, change the color to brown. I think we already have a brown, but I'll make it more darker. Let's go ahead and pull it here, apply it onto that. Great. Now finally we have a background that's going to be blue. I'll just pull this a bit more to the right side to make it cover up the entire space. Great. And that's going to be blue. So we'll create one more Lambert. Call it blue sky. Select him, just apply a simple color. and click on that, drag it onto that surface. Great. Now what I'll do is to check how our textures look, we can go ahead and render that out. To render a scene, we can go up here and click on the second rendering button. So click on that. So that's what we have. Our tree doesn't look smoothed out, and our mountains also is not smoothed out. This is because the smooth that we have applied is just by pressing 3 key, which does not show in our Maya software render. So to make this really smooth, we have to apply a feature called mesh smooth. Now while doing this, we have to keep in mind a couple of things. Number one is, let's go ahead and apply that to this tree trunk. Before that, let's go ahead and check our history information. As you can see, we have a lot of history information. When I apply this mesh smooth, as long as I'm not doing anything, it's fine. But if I delete the history, the model will be stuck with this smooth mode. So we have to be very careful here. So it is always better that we delete the history and then we apply the mesh smooth. Okay, so I'll go ahead and delete the history first, so we can see that we don't have any history information. Now I'll go to mesh menu and choose smooth. So you can see that it applies a smooth modifier, and then we can decide the number of divisions. That means how much smoothness we want. Okay, and once we finalize that, we'll keep it as it is. Now if I make a render, now instead of making a render, I can also open the last rendered window just by clicking on this one. Okay, and I can save this image and I can take a new render. So I'll click on this button to save this existing image, and now I will create a new render. Now the advantage is we can actually compare the previous render with the new render. As you can see that the tree trunk has become smooth now. Now if I want to go back to the unsmoothed version, all I have to do is go back to the smooth modifier and make these divisions to be 0. So now we will have the unsmoothed version. But keep in mind, once I've applied the smooth, if I delete the history, that means I will lose this input connection. I will not be able to go back to the unsmoothed mode ever. So we have to be careful here. So that is why delete the history and then apply the mesh smooth, and make sure that you keep the inputs. Make sure that you don't delete this history. Let's go ahead and do the same thing here for these leaves. I'll go ahead and edit, delete by type, history, and then I'll apply mesh smooth. There you go. We'll keep the divisions to be 2 to make it more smooth. Okay, and I think for the tree it's okay, but if you want, you can actually have 2. Great. Let's do the same thing for these mountains. Edit, delete by type, history, then mesh smooth. Let's open up the existing window. Let's go ahead and save this and then make a new render. As you can see, now it's much smoother compared to how it was before. So this concludes this video on creating textures with simple color.